The girl in this video claims, hey, you thought it was bad being forced to wear a mask? Imagine how terrible it would be to be forced to have a baby. Let's have a quick discussion about that. The pro-life movement is not about forcing women to have children or forcing them to gestate. That's not how it is. However, it's a common mischaracterization. That's one of the reasons why when you talk to pro-choice people, they might say, oh, you people, you just like The Handmaid's Tale and you just think women are like gestational slaves, like you're just so crazy. Being that I am a young woman myself, of reproductive age, I'm 25, like I could still have a lot of kids if I was married right now, like I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be in my best interest to support the pro-life movement if it was about being a gestational slave, just saying. So what's it actually about to be against abortion? If we're not like, hey, yeah, well, let's just force women to have kids. It's not what it's about. Abortion and the movement that's opposing it is specifically focused on the fact that abortion kills a living human. So inside a woman's womb, after sex takes place, sometimes fertilization occurs. And when fertilization happens, according to basic biology, that's a new human being who exists inside the mother's womb. Despite common disinformation from pro-abortion groups like Planned Parenthood, pro-life advocates do believe in women's bodily autonomy. So I believe that each woman does have a right to her own body. I'm not saying, oh, I'm pro-life, so you don't have a right to your body. Here's what I would say, though. I would ask you this question, like, do you believe bodily autonomy has any limit? For example, like, I would say, I have bodily autonomy, so I have the right to swing my arm around, and I can just kind of mess around with that if I want to, because it's my body, and I can just swing around like that if I want to. But if I'm just going to be swinging around my arm, and then I just hit you with my arm, now I've violated your bodily autonomy. That's a problem. So that's consistent with the pro-life message, that women do have the right to protect their own bodies, of course, but that you don't have a right to be violent against other people's bodies. So if someone is expecting a baby and there is a little one in your womb that's growing, yes, we believe in bodily autonomy. We do not believe in the right to dispose of or harm or dismember other people's bodies, and that includes if the body is growing inside your womb. There's only one event biologically that leads to another human living inside your womb, with maybe one exception because of technology, I'll add my little caveat, right? So the only biological activity that can lead to someone else living inside of you is sex. So if you are not interested in another human living in your body, that would be meaning abstaining from sex, because this is the biological activity that leads to the production of brand new human beings. There are those cases that are so horrifyingly tragic where this can happen because of force through rape, which is such an awful and disgusting and horrifying injustice. In that case, when rape has occurred, there are 3 different people in that situation, and my heart goes out to the mom and to the baby. So if we were to examine each of those 3 people, first of all, we have the rapist, this man who has committed an absolutely horrific crime. He deserves to be punished to the fullest extent of the law, to be sent to jail. But so often in our day and age, rapists get off without any penalty. They don't even sometimes get reported to the police, and they just go off and they keep committing more crimes like that. It's disgusting. That person should be held accountable for their crimes. Then there's another person in the situation, and that's the mother. Here she is, this individual who has experienced one of the most horrifyingly just invasive and tragic and awful events a human being could ever go through. I think there are few things that a woman could experience that are more horrifying or more humiliating and more deeply disturbing. My heart goes out to any woman who's ever experienced sexual assault, because it's just horrifying that it happens in today's day and age. And then, after this horrible event has occurred, the woman really deserves to be surrounded by excellent resources and a great community to love her, help her, and support her to heal. So I would always hope for any woman who's faced rape to receive all the healthcare resources she needs, so that she can heal after that, but also like the psychological resources of counseling and any like mental health support she needs so that she can heal from this absolutely traumatic event that's happened to her. So we've looked at 2 people. We've looked at the rapist, we've looked at the mother. There's actually a 3rd person in this situation, and that's the unborn child. The unborn child is an innocent bystander in this situation. That baby resulted from an act that was violent, but the baby didn't do anything that was harmful in themselves. They just came to be as a result of reproduction. So we have to ask this question. In America, when we're punishing rapists, we actually do not give rapists the death penalty here. But when we choose abortion for the case of rape, we are giving a preborn child who has not committed a crime the death penalty for their father's wrongdoing. Do you support punishing children for having a bad and violent father? I think it's unjust for us to punish the child for the wrongs done by their father. I believe a just society would respond to rape by having more severe punishments for rapists and by helping women who have experienced rape to heal mentally and emotionally and physically, and to be able to provide protection from another victim of the situation. The mom is a victim of the situation, and this baby is also a victim, and they deserve to be protected from violence too. The pro-life movement absolutely supports women's bodily autonomy. The pro-life position is consistent with dignifying women and protecting them from violence or from force or harm in those types of situations. So you can be 100% pro-life and support bodily autonomy. And forced pregnancy is a term that the abortion industry uses to try to frame the pro-life movement as uncompassionate. But the thing is, whenever a pregnancy has occurred, at any point in that gestation, only two things can happen, right? So one is the natural culmination of the pregnancy can occur in birth and the baby may be born, or another way that may lead to the end of that child's gestation is death. So sometimes the baby naturally dies, which of course is a miscarriage, that's not abortion, or in the case of abortion, that baby might be targeted with murder. And there's nothing about destroying an innocent human that in any way protects the rights of women. There is no right of an individual woman to be harmful to other unborn women or unborn men. There is only one act biologically that leads to pregnancy, and that is sex. So if a person is not interested in pregnancy, then that person should abstain from an act that can produce brand new human lives. That's a good and healthy thing to do, to be responsible and not to subject children to violence, right? It is not acceptable for someone who doesn't want to be a parent to kill that child in the womb. To make the caveat here, obviously in today's day and age with technology, such a thing as IVF also exists, so there's like the act of actual sex and there's like IVF can also produce children. But what I'm mainly saying here is once a human life comes to exist, it is our job to protect them. There is no right to harm someone. There is a limit to bodily autonomy. Bodily autonomy is very important. However, like I said, I can swing my arm around because I have the right to do that because I have my own body. But I cannot hit you because that's violating your bodily autonomy. And so it is that I can do what I want with my body, but if there is another human being growing within my body, I have no right to act violently against them because they are also a valuable human, an individual person who has human rights and who has a right not to be killed.